the Charter for Compassions through the lens of MLK, Dismantling Hate with Music in Common. And I'm very excited to share our guests with you. We're soon to have a very, very rich conversation with Music in Common. And before we get started in our conversation, there are a few housekeeping things that I'd like to check in with you on. First and foremost, if you are with us live, if you have questions during this conversation, you can type them in the Q&A box, which is in the lower corner of your screen, lower bottom of your screen. And if you have any comments that you want to make during this conversation, please feel free to type them in the chat. So again, if you're live, comments go in the chat, questions go in the Q&A, and we will be addressing them late towards the end of the webinar. So I am very, very happy today to be here with Music in Common, or the fellows of the 2021-2022 or 2020-21. Is that? Okay, apologies. 2020-2021 fellows from Music in Common. And Music in Common, also known as MIC, is a nonprofit organization that repairs the fractures dividing communities worldwide. Their programs bring diverse youth and their communities together, empowering them against hate through facilitated dialogue, collaborative songwriting, multimedia production, and performance. Since 2005, Music in Common has directly served thousands of people in more than 300 communities across the globe and across religious, ethnic, cultural, and racial sectors. This organization was founded by singer-songwriter and producer Todd Mack in response to the murder of his friend and bandmate Daniel Pearl, the Wall Street Journal reporter abducted by terrorists in Pakistan in 2002. As we said, today's conversation is part of a series through the lens of MLK, and the way that Mike is connected with MLK's legacy is Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. said, "People hate each other because they fear each other. People fear each other because they don't know each other. People don't know each other because they don't communicate with each other." And so Music in Common does the important work of dismantling hate through bringing together communities divided by fear and creating space for them to communicate with and truly know each other through peace-building dialogue and creative collaboration. So, I'm very excited to have these wonderful humans here. We had a great conversation in advance of today's call. And so let me just introduce everyone. Trey Carlisle, and Trey goes by he, him, and his. Welcome, Trey. Olivia Davis, she goes by she and her. Welcome, Olivia. Amar Musa, who goes by he, him, and his. Welcome, Amar. And Eva Chevelle, who goes by she and they, and she is in Jerusalem. And also, you know, I also wanted to mention most of us here I'm in California, and Amar is also in California, Trey is in Virginia, and Olivia is in Boston. Okay, so welcome everyone. Thank you so much for being here. I'm sorry, Trey, were you going to say something?
Yeah, thank you for having us. Grateful to be here.
So in advance of this conversation, we're just doing a check-in. And we talked about, let's keep it real. And we're going to this conversation will be a very authentic conversation. So there are moments during this time where maybe it'll feel a little uncomfortable. But we invite you who are watching live with us or from wherever you're watching to join us and stay in a place of discomfort as we talk through it and work through it. So in essence, we're really sort of modeling some of what, or certainly the values, I could say, of what Mike does. You already, in that opening quote, I shared what, how Mike is in alignment with some of what Dr. Martin Luther King has done. But I also, in preparation for this conversation, came across part of his speech from 1964 that I want to share because I also think that lays a foundation for this conversation. So in a speech in the Berlin Jazz Festival, he said, "It's no wonder that so much of the search for identity among American Negroes was championed by jazz musicians. Long before the modern essayists and scholars wrote of racial identity as a problem for a multiracial world, musicians were returning to their roots to affirm that which was stirring their souls. Much of the power of our freedom movement in the United States has come from this music. It has strengthened us with its sweet rhythms, and courage began to fill. Well, excuse me, I'm sorry. It has strengthened us with its sweet rhythms when courage began to fail. It has calmed us with its rich harmonies when spirits were down. And now, jazz is exported to the world. For in the particular struggle of the Negro in America, there is something akin to the universal struggle of modern man. Everybody has the blues. Everybody longs for meaning. Everybody needs to love and to be loved. Everybody needs to clap hands and be happy. Everybody longs for faith. And I sit with that quote because I think it really speaks to where are we today in today's world, and in alignment with our here on the webinar's collective agreement to speak from our hearts and to speak in being present from our bodies and our world experience. I think that quote really speaks to where we are in this time of COVID, where we experience such isolation, where we're really faced with our shadow side and our demons and our fears. And so that's what we're going to be talking about today, is how does music help us navigate that space that Martin Luther King so beautifully identified, what we long for, what we hope for. So I'm going to just sort of open this up to everyone who's here on this call, because certainly music, when we hear it, it speaks to our soul, it moves us, it gets into our bodies where we can't help but clap our hands or tap our feet or sing. And when we think about what those characteristics are, you know, the ability to speak our voice, what's on our mind, and then move our bodies to literally physically create a different world through our words and through our actions. Tell me, share with me some of your experiences about how music has done that for you. That's where I want to go. But actually, I want us to take a step back a little bit, which is, how are you? How are you today? What's on your hearts? What are you feeling? Feel free to share, anybody. And actually, Ava, I see you sitting there with your eyes closed. I just also want to take a moment also, though, to acknowledge that Ava, coming from Jerusalem, is in the middle of a holiday. So thank you for taking that time, Ava, for in the middle of a Jewish holiday of Purim, to be here with us.
Thank you. Something actually that I feel compelled to share is that the holiday is Purim, which is all about costumes and masks. And I'm feeling overwhelmed with the heaviness of the masks that I feel around me in Jerusalem and in my own body and in my own home. And yeah, just masks are everywhere. And it's so scary that it's so easy to be in a mask mode instead of be in a heart-centered mode. And I feel that present.
Thank you. Thank you for the courage to be real and to share what's on your heart and to speak about the fear. You know, I think And this is also what we were talking about before, is that we're in such a time of uncertainty, and there's so much fear and anger and pain. And, you know, the one thing, or maybe actually the two things, if you think include music in that, actually, but the things that unify us, like that's the only place we have to go, is how do we, like we recognize this global crisis, but where are we going to go, and what do we need to listen to move forward? And it's our hearts, our souls, our deep, deep, authentic truths. And music has been one of the greatest tools to share that and express that. And so I saw you all sort of respond. And as we also talked about before, about fear and pain that we're all in right now. I am curious for each of you how music and working with music in common has been able to invite you to move either deeper into that space or move through it or out of it or touched your heart or soul or helped you be more authentic. Anybody want to share?
I know music in common has taught me many things. It taught me about communication and how to communicate, not only with people from different backgrounds, but also with how to communicate with myself. I've learned a lot about myself through music in common. And it it just allowed me to connect with others more.
That's powerful. Thank you. And also for those who are with us, again, for one of the conversations that we agreed upon, or things that we agreed upon in preparation for this call, was that we would be authentic. And so sometimes being authentic, it means we're not speaking quick from our heads, like, da, 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 you know, like a good fast conversation. We're really working on being present in our bodies and in our hearts. And so for those of you who are listening, we're going to invite you to just be with us. Take a minute. Take a deep breath and check in with your bodies. Let your nervous system calm down. Let your heart open just a little bit more. Really, so feel how we're interconnected. So, Olivia or Trey, do either one of you want to add anything to how music in common or just music has helped you work through some of this process, this journey?
Yeah, I think what Amr said really resonates with me as well. I think music in common has taught me a lot about communication. I'm naturally a very introverted person, and so, you know, in times of crisis, I tend to sink inward instead of, you know, being outward with people and reaching out. And you know, I take to my instruments and music and just kind of surround myself in that atmosphere. But music in common has been a really wonderful outlet to for me to reach out to and just be connected with other people by speaking the same language, which is music, and just relating to people in that way. So it's very special to me.
Trey, you want to add anything?
Yes, I 100% agree. Um, for those who don't know, one of our biggest programs that we have at Music in Common, our flagship program, is JAMS, which stands for Journalism as Music, Multimedia, and Songwriting. And it's a program where we will bring young people of different cultural and religious backgrounds together to engage in this deep dialogue where they can see each other's hearts, where they can recognize their shared humanity by opening up their hearts and recognizing the commonalities that we all share on our journeys. We'll engage in dialogue, answering questions like, what are aspects of our faith or aspects of our culture that we really cherish the most? And it's beautiful because in those conversations, we will often see how these same cultural or religious practices that we do that on the surface look different, whether it's wearing a hijab or wearing a yarmulke, both have this same profound impact in our lives and being expressions of our faith, expressions of our desire to live in peace with others and within ourselves and with the world. And we'll also answer questions like, what pressures do we face inside and outside of our faith and cultural communities? You know, what is one thing that we want the world to know about us? And in those conversations, not only do we pour our hearts out and we get in tune with, you know, the challenges that we've experienced in our own lives, but also as members of our cultural and religious communities, but the type of world that we want to live in. I remember in the first JAMS program that I participated in 2016, which happened on the anniversary of 9/11, we brought Jewish, Christian, and Muslims teens together. And I heard one of the participants, and she described how she would be afraid to go to school, bringing a backpack, knowing that she would be teased or feared by others for bringing a bomb to school. And that resonated with me when I heard that, because as a Black man, I will be afraid to walk outside wearing a hoodie, even when it's cold outside, knowing that I can be falsely perceived as a criminal or a threat. So in these JAMS programs, we have these meaningful conversations where we can open up our hearts and see our shared humanity. We can value each other's diversity. And then from that, we use the same themes and meaningful lessons and takeaway that came from those discussions. And we use that to inform the song that we then create. So Music in Common has been such a gift in my life, because it has not only showed me the power of dialogue, of bringing people together, and then the power that dialogue has in helping us see beyond the mass, like Ava shared, see beyond the labels, and recognize our beautiful humanity. But it also has given us a platform for people of diverse backgrounds to then work together to envision and make a call for change for a better world that we seek to live in. And it's been life-changing. And I'm so grateful now, 5-6 years later, to now be a senior fellow with Music in Common, working alongside my peers, creating programs and carrying on Music in Common's work of healing divisions and spreading it out to the world.
Right on. Wow, that's beautiful. Really beautiful. Yeah, you know, when Olivia was speaking, and also in what you're speaking, I forgot to ask one of the most important questions, which is, how are you all musically connected? You know, what instruments do you play? Is it your voice? Is it an instrument? Do you all want to share?
Sure, I play drums, and I'm beginning to get back into guitar. I played for a little bit when I was younger, but it fell out of it, but getting back into it.
Wow, nice. Next, anybody? Feel free.
I have been learning the ukulele and learning the drums for 2 years, and Music in Common actually really inspired me to start my musical journey, because lack of courage and fear and dread and doubt kind of pushed me into a corner of not exploring my passions for music and expression and deep root and resonance and community. So I found Music in Common, and all of a sudden I was in that space to to try it, ready, whether I was ready or not. And being in a community with people from diverse backgrounds was super powerful, because we were there because we all love to sing and we all love the rhythm and we wanted to be friends. And I hadn't been in an affinity group like that. Like, I didn't feel that connected to spirit and centered in my body. My 4 years of college and like the religious institution that I was even navigating through to find that spirit and connection. So Music in Common really centered me in that and reminded me, that's why I'm ticking and have a rhythm within my soul that needs to be expressed.
Mm, mm. That's powerful. Right on. Alma?
So I play the violin, and I'm also trying to get back to learning the piano. I knew when I was younger, but I'm trying to get back into it. And myself, I don't really see myself as like a musician. I don't think I know enough about music to consider myself that, but what I love about Music in Common is that, you know, it's not about the music. I know that's one of I remember it. So I participated in Music Common 2015. It was a jams program, and I was hesitant at first because at the time I only knew how to play the violin, but I'm like, okay, I only know how to play like a few chords. Like, I don't know what I could contribute to the group. But then I realized it's not about the song, it's not about the music. That's just like a byproduct of what happens. But really it's about the connection and the compassion that we can all share towards each other. So I said, yes, let's do it.
Nice. Trey?
Yeah. So I play bass guitar. I play piano and I play some drums, although I got nothing on Olivia. She's one of the best drummers I've ever worked with. And then I also MC. I love rapping and enjoy singing as well. And Music in Common has actually been an amazing platform for me to explore that and cultivate it more and more. Like Amr said, with the jams programs are actually open for anyone. You don't have to have any musical background to participate, which is one of the beautiful things about jams. It allows people to tap into the musical ability that we all have and share, and engage in this human practice of making music together and expressing, you know, our calls for change that we want to see. But Amplify is a Music in Common program that is for young musicians. That's where I met Olivia. And Amplify, in Amplify, participants not only create their own song, like in the Jams program, but they musically reinterpret songs that have been written in other Jams programs around the world, whether it was created between Israeli and Palestinian youth, or American-born youth and refugee youth, or Jewish, Christian, and Muslim youth. So I participated in the Amplify program in 2018 and 2019. And yes, in doing so, it gave me an opportunity to not only just develop my skills in songwriting more and more, in musical interpretation, but it was a community that really gave me the reminder that I can make a difference in the world. That my desire for wanting to heal divisions, not only is it valid, but it is something that is needed. And to be a part of a band and a group of young musicians of different backgrounds, all working together, interpreting these songs that are making these beautiful calls for unity, for social justice, for empathy, and then to perform these songs in the community, busking on the street, which was a dope thing that we would do in community festivals, and then in actual performances. Was one of the most empowering experiences that I've had in my life, and I really treasure it in my heart.
Mm, mm. So just you've raised it for me a whole bunch of questions about music in common specifically. And so one, I hear you don't have to be a musician to participate. And then I hear that there's a second program that is just for musicians. So the next question then is, can anybody, like, do you have to be at a certain level of musical abilities?
So it really depends on the program. With jams, again, you don't have to have any musical ability or background. It's the same thing with the Bridge Sessions, which is a program that Ava Amr and I created, which is an online monthly workshop that brings people of diverse generations, as well as diverse backgrounds, anybody 14 and up, to engage in discussions about the issues of our time, and then be led through the process of creating song lyrics about the themes that come up in our discussion. So we launched our program in November and have had programs around or bridge sessions around the themes of racism, of religion, of reimagining politics, and of anti-Blackness. And in those spaces, it's open to anybody. It's been beautiful to see a lot of participants who said like they have no background in music whatsoever, but the whole experience they had in writing lyrics and creating song lyrics with a group of strangers was really inspiring. So for those programs, those are open for everyone, no matter what background. For Amplify, it is a program for young musicians with experience, because what we are seeking to do in that program is amplify the message of the songs that were created in these jams programs, in these bridge sessions programs, these extremely rich messages of change and of unity, but might not have had the musical experience among the participants to really make that song available to across the globe. So that's what we really seek to do with Amplify.
Got it. So it's good that we've covered the programs, because that is an important thing for people to understand and know how to get involved in the programs. And so, you know, we started the purpose of this conversation about dismantling hate. And we also were talking about like being able to be authentic and where we are right here and right now, right? And so what I hear is like this framework that has been built as a tool, and especially when you go back to the original intention of the organization, you know, the murdering of Daniel Pearl, and how do we heal from that? And here we are today in this place again of chaos. So how do you feel, and this is for really all of you, is how can you talk more about your own journey? And so when you hit the places of pain, is it automatic for you to turn to the music, or where do you go first personally as individuals when you're in a place of discomfort? I know that's a little bit of a general question, right? But where I'm going here is like, so where do you, when you're in pain, where do you turn? And then once you're in that place, in what way does music help you work through it? So, so while you're all sit, think, feeling, I will say for myself, so I played flute and recorder, jazz and classical. I was thinking about going that way as a professional thing a long time ago, but decided, you know, with music, I feel like some people, it's really a calling. Like when I look at musicians who are phenomenal, they don't have a choice. Like the music is playing them, they're not playing the music. And if you have a love of music, and I also play piano, which ultimately was my real refuge here on this. So I'll get there in a second. But the choice to not be professional was because I played music, and on the on those rare moments, I knew that God's spirit was playing music through me, and that was what the craving was, because you feel it when you get that place. You're in flow, but you're not even there as a person. You're just gone. Like spirit is working its way through you. So for me with music, there was always this call, because I'm like, I feel so lost and in so much pain in life, whatever. Where do I go? Like, how do I make sense? How do I process this? How do I not go down like a level of depression or even maybe suicidal ideation? What will help me? And for me, every day when I would come home from school, I would sit down at the piano. Like, my family knew, don't talk to her, give her space. And I would go play piano, and then I could interact. And it wasn't even anything major. It was just how life processed, my body, how I processed emotions that were accumulated in the day. So what is it? How is it for you all? Why? Olivia, I see you moving around there. So does that resonate with you for what I was saying?
Yeah, definitely. I was actually just fixing my cord, but yeah, I really resonate with your statement. The music is playing the musician rather than the other way around. And I think that yeah, that's pretty close to my life story. I think when I sit down to play drums, it's always really cathartic. I think drums is just one of those instruments. I mean, you're hitting things the whole time, so whatever life frustrations you have can be immediately, released through the action of playing. But I learned, eventually that drums is more than hitting things. There's a lot of textural layering involved, and it's really about texture and how you can facilitate sound that sounds good, and not just create noise. And how can you be musical instead of just being loud? And I think the challenge of being creative in that way has always pulled me deeper and deeper into my instrument. And yeah, I started playing drums when I was 13, I believe, and it was always a way for me to communicate with the people around me, with just the world in general. As I mentioned before, um, I I was really introverted as a kid, and still am now. And so that definitely presented some problems in early on, because I struggled with connecting with people. And so I started playing drums, and that opened up a lot of other opportunities for me. I started playing every week at my school. We had these chapel sessions. I went to a Christian school, and we had these chapel sessions where we'd have the praise and worship team play every week. And so that was a great experience, just being with other musicians and being on stage. Definitely exposes you to stage fright and stage performance anxiety. But for me, it was good because I got over all of that. Most of it, I should say. Um, but yeah, I think from the moment that I started playing and learning how to be creative with drums, it was always something that pulled me deeper. Um, I'm still playing now, and yeah, it's always going to be the thing that I go back to. It's always going to be the place where I get my release.
Anybody else want to add about your relationship with your music? I've seen you nodding quite a bit, Almar, especially for somebody who doesn't define himself as a musician, but plays like, I'm like, oh, come on. Come on, you can own it.
Well, I'm naturally a nodder, so you're gonna see me do that all the time. For me, I don't often turn to music for comfort, but I will say that throughout my life, I've spent like I think 7-8 years in a school orchestra, middle school, high school, and I know that I remember making music with my fellow orchestra buddies. We call each other orchidorks. But we play music with each other, and it's a really beautiful moment. And I just feel the aspect of family, and we're a team, and that it really allows us to connect with each other even when we're not talking. So I think that kind of brought a lot from the music.
Ava, do you want to add anything, or are you good?
Yeah, I guess what was on my heart is that I feel a lot of societal pressure in like moment to moment to like people please or to be a certain way, cater to others. And when I play music, it's like, well, I'm sorry, I can't do that right now because my heart needs me and the vibe needs me and the present moment needs me. Nature's calling and I need to respond. Yeah.
Beautiful. So, Trey, did you want to add anything to that?
I would just finally add that I agree that with what all of y'all shared. Music for me has been a beautiful way of processing my pain and my emotions because it's been a powerful tool of connection. I think one of the most powerful tools of connection. Connection with myself and all of my emotions. When I will be writing songs and writing lyrics, I'm able to be in conversation with all the different aspects of me, my pain, as well as my joys, my hopes, my vision for the future, my grief over the trauma that I've experienced, as well as it also allows me to have a conversation with my past, and in my future, what I hope, the change that I hope to see in the world and see in my life. It allows me to have a conversation with my ancestors, especially with a lot of the songs and content that I will write, which is very much around honoring Black history and social justice. I feel I'm in conversations with Dr. King and conversations with those who paved the way and those who lost their lives to racial violence when I'm writing these lyrics. But then also I'm able to connect when I'm making music in community, like through Music in Common. I'm able to connect with all of my peers, and I'm able to see myself in them as we share our stories, as we engage in dialogue and then write lyrics that express our stories and our calls for change and our grief over the pressures we face. And I see myself in them. And then for us to then perform this song, collective song, that speaks to every single one of us in different ways, but also use these same lyrics. It's very unifying. It's very powerful. And that's definitely helped me process, I think, a lot of my pain in a really beautiful, profound, I'd say spiritual way, because it helps me connect And as a result, recognize that I am interconnected with everybody. It's beautiful.
There's so many that listening to you all has touched so many different areas. You know, I'm thinking about the layers, and I'm thinking about, you know, when we talk about dismantling hate, and I'm thinking about the words of MLK that we've all shared. And I'm listening to you talking about your ancestors, and then you know, Olivia, you mentioned layers, and Ava, you this call to be present, right? And so I'm thinking about, in the work that you all are doing, how sound, how vibration, and actually creating sound and vibration touches our body and literally can shake us up, like change the quality of how we feel internally. And so with all of that in mind, my question, is there any song that you all have worked on together? Or
Oh,
have,
yes. Oh,
yeah,
yes, there is.
okay. So let's think of those songs, and maybe one, because now I don't, tell me one song that you all have worked on together, and then let's play with that a little bit based on everything that's been said so far.
So, Olivia, the song that comes to my mind is the song that we produced together in the Amplify 2019, Shine Through. And then I also think about how in Amplify 2018, we reinterpreted, our group reinterpreted the song Pray for a Cure, which is a song that Amr produced in his jams program. So I feel like connected with him in that way, and we both worked on that song. Yeah, those two are powerful.
So are those two songs ones that all four of you know and can and have worked on? Then I'm just wanting to be sure, because, but I don't want to ask a question that, so where I'm going with this is, if what of those, or maybe of those two songs, how did they hit you, and how did it hit you? That's not the right, God, isn't it amazing? I'm sorry, I just went down a little micro like rabbit hole here about how our language is imbued with violence. And it just, every time I hear it and catch it, it's like, no, you know, how did that hit you? It's like, wait a minute, how did that touch you? How about that? You know, how did that touch your heart? How did that touch your soul? So where I was going on this, back out of the rabbit hole now, you know, is like, how did one song that you all have worked on, what kind of a journey did it take you on? Because we're talking really about dismantling hate, right? So are there songs, and you know, Olivia, you talked about like hitting on the drums, and I was really, you know, get that anger, get that frustration out. Obviously, drumming is very different than violin playing or ukulele playing, you know. So tell me about a journey. Maybe I should make this, instead of trying to like bring it unifying in a way. Maybe it's, tell me about a journey one of you or all of you have gone on as an individual while working through a music in common song or process.
I know for me, I went through a journey in my first jam session in 2015. So just a couple of days, I think 3 days before the jams weekend, the San Bernardino shooting took place. And I live in Orange County. It's right next to San Bernardino County. So it really hit home. And I know that, you know, I remember feeling fear coming into the jams program because I'm Muslim. And I knew that the participants know my background already. So I didn't know what to expect. So it was just bringing up a lot of emotions here. But as we were connecting with each other, there was um, a center of compassion, and it allowed me to, over time, let my guard down and kind of be able to connect with them. And as we together, we discussed many hard topics, but at the end, we decided to write a song to dedicate it to the victims of the San Bernardino shooting, which is called "Pray for a Cure," as Trey mentioned earlier. And really, as we were writing the song, I think it touched all of us who worked on it, because we all felt connected to it. And all of us contributed to the lyrics. And, I just remember like performing it for the first time and even second time. And it made me feel like I was part of something.
Wow, it gave me goosebumps while you're speaking. It's so powerful. Thank you. Anybody else? So, in listening to you talk, oh, go ahead, Ava.
Oh, okay. I guess I wanted to share the jams program I participated in this past summer. We wrote a song called "Knows Her Worth," and it was about specifically like a women's issue of facing trauma in society, and how that, and it really resonated with me because it really reflected my journey of injustice breaking me down, not able to actualize that. Those were some of the lyrics of the song. And I still I feel to this day that those lyrics and that message and that song that we wrote this summer is still with me on my journey of gaining strength as a woman who has faced harassment and an inability or a hardship in speaking my truth and demanding space. And yeah, that was an extremely powerful song that I was very grateful to be a part of with Amr and Trey as well.
Mm. Wow. I'm really moved. Olivia, did you want to say anything, or are you good, or how you doing?
Trey mentioned a song from the 2019 Amplify program, Shine Through, and that was the original song that the group of musicians who we were working with, that was the original song that we came up with. And I think that song is special because it's basically a summary of like various frustrations from all of us within the group. We had some specific examples in the lyrics, but it's basically everyone, or most of us, who wanted to really make our frustrations known, got a chance to sort of speak our truth and put that in a musical format. And I think that just having that one song have all of those struggles and all of those frustrations, just having that all in one place where it's like musically accessible is I think it's really special. And everyone's struggles were unique and valid in their own right. And so I think that it's powerful to that we were able to compose, shine through, and just like I said, speak our truth.
Mm. So I think it's putting you all on the spot. Would anybody like to share some of those lyrics, either who's actually singing them or just stating them? Go for it.
Sure, yeah. So the chorus goes, I want to spark change, rearrange. Can't box me in, I'll break these chains. Today's the day, so why not start? I feel it deep within my heart. The fire of youth shining through. I found my truth, I won't follow you.
Mm. Oh, I goosebumps. Wow, that's exquisite. I'm really touched. I'm so glad that we're kind of going down this part of the conversation, because what I'm hearing so much of is using music as a tool. When we talk about dismantling hate, you're quite seriously saying, okay, we're going to look at social injustice, economic injustice, gender identity injustice, like any place that there is any repression. We're going to like bring it up. We're going to talk about it, sing about it, like engage through sound and music and words and vibration. I mean, it's powerful, and what I also hear there too is the role of spirit in all of this too. Like, and anytime we've mentioned, or I've seen or heard any of you mention spirit, at least two of you have nodded your head and been like, yeah, And so again, I at the sake of going back to too much of a Judeo-Christian perspective, but first there was the word, and that sound, that's like breath, that sound going into vibration, and that's what we're doing with music, so it's really a very, very special gift that you all are bringing into the world, and that Music in Common and you as the fellows are bringing into this world. So I just want to take a minute and thank you. And I know that I saw that earlier that Todd Mack, the founder of Music in Common, is with us. And so I really want to say to you, Todd, thank you for what you've gifted and birthed into this world, because what a phenomenal organization and opportunity to be giving so many people. Wow, what a difference you get to make, really. And in memory of Daniel Pearl, like, I can't, it's horrific. His death was just no words. And yet, what a birth that has come from that. And talk about dismantling hate and pain and turning it into unity and collaboration, and finding a way to address all kinds of systemic injustices and oppressions. Just thank you. Really, thank you. So we've got about 3 minutes left. That time flew. So I'm going to just ask anyone for your anything that's on your heart that you want to say before we jump into some more technical pieces here. Trey. Yeah.
Well, I just wanted to say thank you, Ava, Olivia, Amr, and Lisa, for this space and for speaking your truths and being vulnerable and opening your hearts. This gave me a taste, a reminder of what our Music in Common programs are like, the type of jams, programs, and meaningful discussions that we engage in, and the bonds that we create. So I just thank you for allowing us to just revisit that and embody that and kind of showcase that. I really appreciate you all for doing so. And I just finally want to say, for folks who are interested in learning more about Music in Common, please check out our website at musicincommon.org. We're launching some really meaningful endeavors this year, and in honor of Black History Month, and in honor of carrying on the work of Dr. King. One of the biggest initiatives that Music in Common is launching this year is called the Past, Present, Forward Initiative, which is an effort to engage Black and white people of across generations and backgrounds and Black and white artists in the process of truth and reconciliation around the history and legacy of racial injustice and anti-Blackness in this country, with music as the medium to do so. So we will be producing albums, an album called the Black Legacy Project that brings in Black American artists together to reinterpret and reimagine songs central to the Black American experience. Then there will be an album called the White Caucus Project that brings in white artists to engage in meaningful discussion, responding to the cries of those in the Black Legacy Project and reflecting on what they can do to contribute to this change and this reconciliation. And then we have the final album, Past, Present, Forward, which brings both Black and white artists from those albums together to create original songs that are about how we can move forward, how we can make change. So if you all are interested in learning more about that, please go to musicincommon.org. So I had to make the plug before we ended the convo.
Gonna do it.
Yeah. But I shared that really in the context though of this profound conversation, because as a reminder of what Music in Common is about, healing divisions through helping us rehumanize each other and see each other heart to heart. And I just thank you, Lisa, and thank you, Ava, Olivia, and Amr for opening up your hearts in today's session, and allowing us to re-experience, and hopefully have others that watch this video experience the beautiful work and healing that we do. So thank y'all.
Absolutely, and thank you so much. So I am having a little bit more technical difficulties here, but let's see if I can do this. So I'm gonna say thank you all, but don't hang up yet, everybody who's on this call, because I'm gonna have to switch screens here. And so I might lose ways of interacting with you here. So I'm going to put some slides up. There are going to be 2 slides you're going to see. One will have the Music in Common contact info for you all. And then the following slide after that will have the upcoming next in the Through the Lens series. So thank everyone for being with us. This has been such an incredible, heart-centered, rich, exquisite conversation. You all are it's been an honor and delight to spend the past hour or so with you all. You are beautiful human beings. It's truly my honor to be sitting with you. All right.
Thank you. It's an honor to be sitting with you too, Lisa.
Thank you for having us.
Absolutely.
Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome. You know what? I'm going to take 2 seconds more, actually, because I did say to you all, is there anything else that's on your heart that you would like to share? And then I just started to wind us down. So my deep apologies. Feel free. Is there anything anybody else wants to say before we wind up? You good?
Yeah, I just wanted to say thank you so much for reinstilling this courage in my heart of being centered wholeheartedly in the body, in the mind, and the soul through the spirit, and for being unafraid to be with self and with spirit and in community in that. So thank you so much for that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Thank you.
And I just want to say thank you for all the work that you're doing for Charter for Compassion.
Well, you all have been a phenomenal partner, and I've only read about you all, and so after having this conversation, we're so in alignment with the words, words, and values. So it's truly been an honor. All right. Any last words before I go to the final slides? All right. Thank you, everyone. And here we go. And hopefully, You are, whoops, there we go. Okay, we're going to jump. All right, give us one more second, and you should see very shortly, you should see on the screen, for those who are interested, hold on, sharing is paused. Okay. Zoom share. All right, there we go. Are you seeing now through the lens of MLK?
Yes, yes.
Right on. Okay, so for those who are watching, you can learn more about this phenomenal organization at www.musicandcommon.org. You don't even necessarily need the www these days. So musicandcommon.org. And if you have any questions, you can reach out to them directly at info@musicandcommon. Except there's a typo in there that I just noticed now. So it's musicin common.org. So thank you everyone for your time. It has been a tremendous honor. Our next event is this coming Sunday, February 28th at 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. And it will be through the lens of MLK, managing risk with greater peace. And so I hope you can join us, learn more at Charter for Compassion. All right, thank you so much, everyone. And may your day and evening flow with ease and grace. May you stay centered in your body with your heart open. May you be fearless in riding the emotions, even those that scare you. May we move into love, peace, grace, and compassion. Thank you.